This kind of protest is an expression of a philosophy that's grounded partly in postmodernism and partly in Marxism. Now, the postmodern element is basically this. There's no such thing as genuine individual identity. What there is group identity. And you, like it or not, only have the interests of your group. And the whole world is nothing but a battleground between groups of different interests.
You know, one thing I do know, whether it's political science and psychology, is that once you start to regard yourself as a victim, you look for a perpetrator, and as soon as you look for a perpetrator, you look for someone that it's okay to hurt. It's really not a good thing. I had a student who had toured the mass grave camps in Eastern Europe with the UN. So I guess the other thing I think about is that none of the other panelists came, so they were intimidated into. And it's really priority. And it comes out in... Shut him down! Shut him down! Sorry, we've got a little bit of microphone problem. It's not working too bad. Can you guys hear me at all at the back? Yeah! Okay, well that's good. So, I guess I can tell you a little bit about why I oppose Bill C-6. Come on. I guess it must just be cutting out. Part of the reason that I opposed Bill C-16 to begin with was because I took issue with the manner in which the politics of identity are being built into our law. Sorry, we got a little bit of microphone problem. It's not working too bad. Can you guys hear me at all at the back? Well, that's good. So I guess I can tell you a little bit about why I oppose Bill C-6. Come on. I guess it must just be cutting out. Part of the reason that I opposed Bill C-16 to begin with was because I took issue with the manner in which the politics of identity are built into our law. I look. So what I would recommend, perhaps, is that all of you who want to hear me talk, leave, go outside, okay, and I'll come outside and talk to you. And then, so we have peacefully, and then whoever wants to stay in here on the side is can. But they're going to close this down, so let's try that, okay? Okay.
He's doing it outside now.
If you're faced by unreasonable opposition, it's best to let the unreasonable opposition speak, because they manifest themselves as unreasonable, and then everyone can see it. And so that's part of the reason that you want free speech, right? Is you want people...
Oh shit.
I think we're better.
Well, at least they're at the back of the crowd this time.
You know what? Come on, let's sort of insulate Dr. Peterson.
Good idea.
And finally, you can see too that the vast majority of people, for example, men who are biologically male, who present themselves as male, or who identify as male, who present themselves as male, are also heterosexual. 95% of them, perhaps 98% of them, depends on the statistics.
I believe it was explicitly stated to you that you said she's staying off of those topics. We kind of want to hear your views on free speech, but we don't want to hear your views on gender identity and stuff. I thought it was made clear.
Those are...
We're no longer in that event now.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'd appreciate it if you just stayed on topic.
I think he is on topic. I think he is.
I think you
So, anyways, the reason that I think that this is a problem is because it's written into the law. And the law isn't the place where you debate those sorts of things. You don't instantiate a particular philosophy into the law, especially one that's predicated on what I would say it's absolutely incoherent. And not only that, like, even if you're thinking about it from the perspective of someone, say, who's homosexual, one of the arguments that people who are gay very frequently use is that there's actually a biological underpinning to their homosexuality.
Right.
But we're going to dispense with that? Well, what happens if we dispense with that?
Right.
What happens if we dispense with the idea that there's a biological underpinning to homosexuality?
Outrage.
Does that mean that it can just be changed? And what are people going to do with that piece of information except try to change it? Right. The people who've been fighting for homosexual rights for the last 30 years very frequently made the case that the reason that the rights were necessary was because there was a reality to the condition. Well, I'm not arguing for that or against it. What I'm saying is that the law, the way it's currently constituted, makes arguments like that completely invalid. It does the same thing with transsexuality, which we don't know enough about to determine, say, its manner of causal origin. Now, it looks to me like I think it's premature to exclude a biological component, especially because of what we know about how gender identity and biological sex are instantiated in utero. So we know, for example, that the standard human fetus has a female morphology. It doesn't matter whether it's XX or XY from a chromosomal perspective, and then it's transformed into a male morphology with testosterone. Yeah. Right, so so the reason I'm telling you this is because
Save your breath. We got all night.
the reason that I'm telling you this is because there's no reason whatsoever to presume that the laws that are being put in place to protect the people that these laws are supposed to protect will do anything that remotely resembles protecting them.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned when we were in the hall, when I talked to you about the letters that I've received from transsexual people, they're very terrified about all of this.
Yep.
Because the vast majority of them want to be as invisible as everyone else wants to be.
Right.
And all this does is draw negative attention to them. They're also not very happy about the fact that they're being represented noisily by people who have absolutely no right to speak for them. So, one of the things we really have to get over, and in a serious way, is the idea that just because you're talking to someone black or white or transsexual or homosexual, that you're speaking to a member of a homogenous tribe, and that the opinion that they happen to have is the opinion that all those who are like them share. There's nothing that's more racist than that assumption, right?
Yep.
Because it means that you don't know a damn thing about you except the most boring part of your identity, and I can predict everything that you are and everything that you think. Well, that's a terrible thing to believe, and it's also patently untrue. You know, there's no reason to assume that any group of people who don't fit into traditional society for some way are any more homogenous in their general makeup and their political views than any other group. Well, I can tell you a little bit about why these attempts to shut people down are being made, because you need to know this. So, as far as I've been able to determine, this kind of protest is an expression of a philosophy that's grounded partly in postmodernism and partly in Marxism. Now, the postmodern element is basically this. There's no such thing as genuine individual identity. What there is group identity. And you, like it or not, only have the interests of your group. And the whole world is nothing but a battleground between groups of different interests. There's no dialogue. There's no possibility of talking between the groups. It's just a power stage where combat has to take place. And so the reason that speakers with whom the radical postmodernists and the Marxists don't agree are denied a platform is because those people do not believe from a philosophical position that dialogue can bring consensus. And all that's left if you forego that particular principle is this. And this is only where it starts. You know, the fact is that you're all pretty damn civilized. And thank God for that. Because if there were enough fools in the crowd, especially those who are intent on violence, this would turn out very differently.
Right.
And we do not want to go down that pathway. It's a big mistake. We've been down that pathway many, many times. I would certainly not conform to a consensus that was against my belief merely because it was a consensus. Often the group is wrong. The question was, if there was a consensus against my beliefs, would I forego them? And the answer to that would be, well, first, it would depend on what my conscience said. What are we going to do? Assume that the consensus is correct? The Nazis had a consensus, right? The individual has a conscience, and you have to know when the group has made a mistake and has become nothing but a madly chanting mob. In which case, what you should do is detach yourself from the madly chanting mob and act like you've got a spy.